Right, well, there's some words in the English language, I'm not even sure if they're words, but they're really good. One of them is pissy, and I think that because I just had the that foil on the back there that lifts up. The paint had been lifting up. It wasn't rusty because I think it's some composite material, but it was bubbling up in places and was coming away from the surface. So it was repainted. It was all stripped off and repainted a couple of weeks ago. And what's pissy? Well, look at that. I don't know if the light can show that. There's two little bubbles, and actually three little bubbles starting to come up. So I'm guessing that they're going to get bigger. Actually, I can feel something there. So I don't know. You know, this paint shop, they said, well, yeah, it wasn't done right. We'll do it. Well, it's happening again, so I'm going to have to take that back and see what they got to say. Yeah, not very good. Right, and what have we got here? Well, this is an old item. A lot of you probably remember it. This is it's from the 1980s. I can't remember the guy's name now. Anyway, he won. I think he got knighted for it. He invented this wind-up radio. Died recently, I think. Actually, it's when I say wind-up, a lot of these wind-up radios now, they you turn the handle, and what it does, it charges a battery. But this isn't like that. This has got a big spring inside. So when you wind it up, you're actually winding up a big spring, and then of course the spring releases slowly and runs the radio. So it's not a battery charging up. Anyway, I'll wind it up.
Date on car situation is a change in the gearbox.
Yes, I was swapping the gearbox out today in my track car. It's been sat on the bench for a year.
I feel like we should do those kind of,
gives you a workout as well as an exercise machine, as well as a radio, I think.
And then we speed it all up and it won't finish. It'd be incredible. I'll look into it. Anyway, 8 to beat today.
Quite handy though. I mean, I've had that now since the 1980s, so as you can see, it's going round. So it'll gradually unwind. Right, well, I've just used this little machine here, which is a high pressure air blaster. It's actually, I used it in the, when I had a boarding kennel for drying dogs. So you plug it in and it actually, within a very short space of time, it actually blasts out really hot air. It comes out there really hot. Well, sort of really at such a great force. So it comes out of there, great velocity. And I used it. Well, I use it on all the cars, but I just cleaned up the wheel arches and getting the mud out of the car. And it's very good because you can blast in through the little cracks and everything underneath here. And the hot air blasts through and dries the mud and gets rid of it out of the little areas that you just can't get to. I mean, in the garages they use air hoses, so it's a similar sort of thing, really. I just got all the mud out from underneath the wheel arches of this car. I'm just kind of cleaning it up. And that's the mark that somebody did. So I've got to try and get that fixed now. Pity about that. It's one little tiny bit. to repair. Somebody drove into it. I was going to wait till I got a few more marks and have them all done at the same time. Not that I'm hoping to get too many marks on it. So it rained overnight, but not enough to get all this dirt and dust off the Jag. So I think a good hose is the thing to do. Now for a good dry off. Right, well, that's it cleaned up a bit with some water, washed off, and now it's time to have some polish on it. Looks a lot better, eh? Right, I'll do the bumper back there, very good. Certainly looks better for a clean. Amazing, isn't it? Different car. Right, now to get some polish on here. Right, well, there we are. It's had a polish. Not bad for a, there's the polish. It's not bad for a 17-year-old car, is it really? The only thing I've got here is a little bit of paint come off this sensor, or something's come off it. I've got a bit of paint actually that I could put on there, so I'll do that. I'll find that paint. That one's okay, and the inside is good too. Basically like new. Got the Jaguar mats. And there we have the engine bay, which there again is pretty clean. I'm going to clean down here, actually get some stuff and clean that. The weather clears up a bit, it's a bit wet at the moment, but it's a pretty good engine bay. Right, so I've been out in the Jag and quite a nice experience actually. So I'm just concentrating on negotiating this. I don't want to scratch this. And I've got a big rock. It's terrible here where all this building work's going on. Oops, no. Going over the bumps, see what the suspension. Oops, see what the suspension is like. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so I've been out in the Jag, and it's absolutely lovely to take it out. I mean, it looks great now with it clean, the bonnet all clean in front of you. The car is so quiet and so responsive. I mean, if you put your foot down, whoops, got wheel spin then. I think we'll stop that. I've got the Crossfire Undercover, because I'm limited here with space at the moment with all the building work going on. And I had, there was garages here. I had another 3 garages here in front of me where all that rubble is and the sand. So another 3 cars were undercover, and I had another one around there I lost. So there's 4 garages, which is basically why all my cars now are out. And I can't build another one at the moment because, well, this is where I'm sitting here at this moment, and the car will be a house at some point. So it's just a few cars. I have to keep my Dodge undercover, really. And I don't know why I've kept the Crossfire undercover. I'm going to take it out tomorrow, though, because I'm going to go up and to the body shop and show them the that spoiler that's got a little bubble come up in it again. That's going to have to be dealt with. Yeah. I had comments of people who, well, a comment of a person who didn't like the Crossfire, the look of it, or I think the engineering of it, but I think it's great. I think it's a beautiful looking car. Absolutely beautiful. Quite stunning, actually. And I mean, this humpback, whale back, whatever you want to call it, look, actually it's not dissimilar to the Dodge. In fact, if you look at the Dodge, we've got the sort of humpback and the sort of fenders coming out at the side. It's very, very similar. I'm going to go out and have a look at that. Funny how some people look at well, anything differently. Same with anything in life. People have a different view and a different opinion on things. So that design feature is very much, I think, an American taste, but it was certainly used by the Americans a lot on their cars. I mean, Stingray, Corvette Stingray had used the same thing on a lot of the, obviously the cars from the late 40s. The Dodge was just one example, but I mean, when you take the Buicks, the Cadillacs from that period, Chevys, I mean, actually they all had that that sort of whaleback look, and it was transferred in the UK with cars like the Standard, Vanguard. They had that look. But I think it's interesting that this modern application of it in the relatively modern in the Crossfire is very, very similar to the Dodge. You know, this bit here, that back there with the flow there is exactly the same there. It's really quite attractive, I think. It's a design flair, but obviously some people don't like it. Well, it takes all sorts, eh? I think they're 2 nice looking cars, but then I would think that, wouldn't I, because I own them now. Anyway. The Crossfire is interesting, and I've commented on it, that Chrysler took an old Mercedes and they reclothed it, as it were, and I think they did a good job of it. It actually looks very similar in feel to the Mercedes that it was taken from, but it was given a different will have a different aggression to it. This is more aggressive, I think, and it's more stylized. I think it's a better design myself. Some of the design cues I think are beautiful. I've mentioned them before. Got this ridge which runs down the car in the middle, and it's echoed inside on the dash and on the inside of the interior on the roof. I think the creases in the bonnet are kind of inspirational, really, though practically they do tend to get a bit dirty. They're just different. I mean, little vents at the side. Just a nice car, really. Why would you have a design? I mean, if you didn't want a car that was different, I mean, all the cars could just be the same shape. I think modern cars are not as shapeless as people sometimes think they are. I think they're if you look at all the SUVs, the outlines are very similar, but the actual design cues are very varied. And that's the point about this car, that it's the same basic shape as the Mercedes it was based on, but the design cues in it are very different and very American, which makes it attractive to certain people, certainly attractive to me. And this car is also, I mean, you look at it now, if you look at some of the curves in it, they're quite amazing. I mean, this door, you've got this curve, you've got that, you've got the curve at the bottom. It's quite an amazing car when you really look at it. Certainly not without thought. I think people dismiss a lot of things that are designed, and just because basically they look at something that they like it or they don't, and that's fair enough. But if you start analyzing the actual shapes of products, it applies to anything, but certainly with cars, more so maybe than some other products, because they're trying to, designers are trying to achieve an individual look which will attract people and make the vehicle stand out from other vehicles. But certainly trying to attract, I mean, it's like a woman, isn't it? I mean, if you're a fella, you get attracted to different women, and you say, well, why? The differences are very subtle, and we as humans have this magnificent ability to appreciate the nuances, the differences, very subtle differences between people's faces and bodies, and in objects. So we understand and accept the differences in cars, and that's proven by the fact that if you look back on cars from a period that you are unfamiliar with. So if I look back on cars that were designed and built in, say, the 30s, 20s and 30s, without studying them, I see very little difference in them. They all look the same to me. They all look the same, really. I couldn't tell one apart. Maybe you start with the obvious ones. You look at the actual radiators, and you look at the difference in the radiator or the mascot on the radiator. But when you look at a period that you know well, that you grew up with, and you like, to me, it's the 40s and the 50s and 60s, all of these cars look totally different to me, but yet to a young person now, they look all very similar, or they wouldn't know the difference between them. So the differences are very subtle. And if you, if you flick hundreds of pictures of people's faces very quickly, just flick through them, without even thinking, subconsciously you actually can recognize not only the differences between all these faces, but you can actually identify people or faces that you know in an instant. Well, the same thing happens with cars. Our mind is so attuned to this. So I can flip through cars from the 50s and 60s and just have a whole 100 of them and just flick them, so they just all flash through them all, and I would recognize them, almost all of them, instantly. But that wouldn't apply to older cars. But the fact that we can understand these subtle differences is an amazing facet of the human mind. Anyway, my Jag looks really good. Nice and clean. My Jag, actually, that maybe somebody could give me some advice on. I should have to try and figure it out. Two people, I had a thought, and two people have said it to me recently, that this was the long wheelbase version. But I said no, because that back door seems And the back window seems quite large, compared with certainly larger than the front. And I'm not certain. It must be something to do with the vehicle number, the VIN number. Must be able to tell you. But if anyone's got any ideas that knows these cars better and can tell me whether they think that's a standard XJ8 or the long wheelbase one, which is only a little bit longer, I think, I would appreciate knowing. Quite a lot of room in there, the back. Okay, well, it's been a couple of days since I managed to get the 2CV going. I didn't take it anywhere, I just started it up because I've had this starting problem. I'm going to try it again and see what happens. I'm convinced there's a problem with this car, and at the moment I can't find anyone who can give me a definitive answer as to what it is. I've had some suggestions, but I'm not sure what the answer is anyway. Right, so we'll pull the choke out and we'll start it up. Well, now what does this tell me? I don't know. I started first time. So I don't know what it tells me. It doesn't tell me that something's cured. It tells me maybe there's an intermittent problem. Is that possible? I don't even think I've had this car start first time before. I've pushed the choke right in, so the choke's back in. Amazing. And it's ticking over as well. Well, I think I'll leave it for a bit longer, maybe a week, and try it again. Until I'm happy with it, I'm loath to take it out because I go out and stop somewhere and then I won't start again. Right, I'll leave it now. So, I've partly cleaned the Aventime. I've cleaned the front wheels and cleaned the front of the car. Looking a bit better. And I've cleaned a lot of the Mercedes. It's not complete yet. But, I get upset when I see that little mark on the back there that somebody knocked it. But the car is just lovely. Lovely, isn't it? Right, well, it's early in the morning and it looks like it could be a reasonable day. We had a break in the long stretch of really hot and dry weather. Obviously we had a lot of rain recently. And the building site here, oh, the wind, the building site here is, doesn't look much, well, it looks worse. No, we've cleared a lot here, and hoping that this coming week we're finally going to start building with earnest. Well, I don't mean earnest demand, but you know what I mean. That's the sort of mood I'm in. But as for my cars, well, there's one missing at the moment. That's the Crossfire. Because the Crossfire went back to the body shop to have the rear spoiler repainted, because I'd had a couple of spots where it was bubbling up again. And this wasn't due to rust or corrosion or anything. This was due to some reaction with the paint. Obviously I don't know the answer to it, and I don't think at the moment the repair place did, but they've taken the car back. Now, what I've agreed with them is that when they've repainted the Crossfire, the spoiler, I'm going to give them the Mercedes to repair. Now, when I say repair, I shouldn't really use that word because it's only a few minor spots, and this is what they are. So we've got this here, which has got a little scratch and a slight dent in it. So that's going to have to be done. At the same time, there's this little area here where the lacquers come off of the mirror, and it annoys me, and it's only going to get worse, so that needs addressing. Then, and you know what happens when you wash a car, there's a tiny little bit of rust coming through there, so they're going to do that. And also, I noticed that this top of this license plate surround, the lacquer seems to have gone dull. Maybe through cleaning, I don't know, maybe water coming down all the time. So they're going to repaint that section. So they're only small things, but you know, I continually try to keep this car as perfect as I can keep it. So I'll swap the cars over, so that's hopefully going to happen next week, because this Crossfire is with them at the moment. But the Aventine is having a bit of a break from its trip to France. But the other news, which isn't really, well, it isn't car related, it's bike related, because this is my latest purchase, which is a Reese&Muller supercharger. I love the name. This is a 2-battery bike. One battery's in there, one battery's in there. And it's the HS model, and I'll leave people to work that one out for themselves. I fitted the, actually I've only had it 3 days, and I've done about 60 miles in it already, and I've already done some changes. I got rid of the original seat, which was over here somewhere. Where are we? Right, that was the original seat, a bit of a racing seat, I thought. But the problem with it wasn't so much the seat, it was the fact that it had this cushion affair. Now, with that on, the seat was just too high. Now, this is the medium-sized bike, and you know, it's the right size for me. But what I didn't realize was that those tires are much bigger than normal tires. So though the wheel is small, the tires make the bike higher. This seat, in its lowest position, because of this sort of rubbery suspension business, made it higher, and it was just too high to get on. So I changed that for this one. Now this one had to be wired up because you can get on it. I mean, actually, as it is, it's the right size, I think, for me, but I wasn't too sure. But there's a lever up here, this one here. So when you push it, well, you have to push it hard. Oh, the seat pops up. To get it down again, you have to be sitting on it, really, because you push the lever, and when you sit on it, it'll go down, but it'll pop up, so you can basically adjust the seat. So you can get on it in a low position and then raise it up when you're riding. So that I've added. I also added this mirror, which, to be honest with you, was so good that I decided to buy a couple more and fit them to my other bikes. Now this one is a pedal electric. There's no throttle whatsoever, which means that the power only comes on when you're pedaling. As opposed to this one, which has got a throttle, and it's a nice bike. There's the throttle there. So that will actually work as a pedal electric or as a throttle, a combination of the two. The A to B Metro only works as a throttle bike, so when you pedal, you can pedal, and then you turn the throttle to give assist, or you can not pedal and just use the throttle. That's my wife's bike, which has actually got the same system, which is Bosch system as my one, except that my one is an HS model with a standard derailleur, really 11-speed derailleur. My wife's got the more expensive, actually, internal hub gears, but it's got a chain, whereas this is a rally one, I think, and then rally cactus. But the this company, they do that hub. I think it's that hub, but they'll do it with also with a carbon, carbon chain. So there's so many different variations on these bikes. But this one is nice, as I say. I've been out on it quite a bit. When you turn it on, actually, the lights come on automatically. Oh yeah, it's got another thing, this one. That's good. Let's turn this on. Right. So when you turn it on, the light is constantly on, and the backlight as well. But the thing I really like about this is that it's got stop lights. So when I pull the brake lever, the stop lights come on. Now that's a really, really good thing. I like that. Otherwise, it's a very good safety issue. And funny enough, I had two guys actually wave or toot to me when I sort of braked and pulled over to let them by on the country lanes. I think the fact that they saw the brake lights come on, they realised that I was slowing down to let them by. So that was quite good. Anyway, so today, which is the point of this video at the moment, today I'm going boating. We've been invited to go on the Thames on a friend of ours' boat. So we're leaving in a minute, taking my wife's Volvo, and we're going to spend the day on a boat. And then tomorrow, if the weather's good, I'm going to take one of these bikes out and clean a car. Yeah, I mean, it's kept its shine, and the reason is because we've had rain in the last week, and there's not the building dust from the building development here blowing around everywhere, which was what was causing all the cars to go dusty and looking tarred and decrepit. So actually it looks really nice. I cleaned it up and still looks good. I've been out in it a bit. I'm actually planning to take it for a longer journey. I'm sort of thinking, well, when the opportunity comes along for a drive, you know, I'm gonna take this car. You know, just thinking, I keep looking at this. I think I talked about this, but this thing about this car being, is it a long wheelbase or not? I've got to find this out. I'm going to have to get the VIN number and find out, because I keep thinking that back window looks longer than it, and the door there looks longer than it normal. And somebody else has said that to me, that it was a long wheelbase, but I can't believe it. But I don't know. I mean, when they called them long wheelbase, I think they weren't that long. They were just a couple of inches. It does look. It's one of these things that you kind of convince yourself. You look at it, and you're convincing yourself that it is a long wheelbase, or like anything that you try to convince yourself because you want it to be. Well, I don't want it to be, but. There's quite a bit of room inside. Right, I think that's something that I will try and find out. This car hasn't been driven since it went to the coast at Cromer, and I don't think that it'll be out for another few weeks yet, because one of the other cars that I want to get back on the road properly is my 2CV, and this one is dusty because I haven't cleaned it in the last few weeks. Now, the last time I started it, it started almost instantly. I'm not going to try it at the moment because it's a bit early and I don't want to wake the dogs up here, who are having a little bit of a sleep before we depart, as it's early in the morning. But I'm going to try it tomorrow because I'm convinced that there's something wrong with this car. I had problems when it was hot starting it. I've had problems when I arrive somewhere after driving it and it won't start, and yet it started perfectly. And as I want to try and drive it a bit more now, and we're hoping to take it to Croatia next year, somehow I've got to get it running reliably. The little Ami has not really been out much since it did its London to Brighton run, which is that. But it's looking good. I did wash it, actually. Still one of my most reliable cars that I've had no mechanical problems with. Only some minor things with lights and a few things, that's all. And I've had this car some years now. Great little car. Great. Okay, I think it's time to go boating. Right, well, we're in my wife's XC60, Volvo that is, and look at it. It's cleaner than my cars, much cleaner than my cars. Amazing, frightened to touch anything. We're on our way to somewhere in Windsor for a day of boating. This should be interesting. It's a change from cars, I guess, and electric bicycles. But, the traffic has not been too bad. But the day, I don't think it's going to rain too much, hopefully. Anyway, we'll try and find this boatyard and see what it's like on the boat. And no, I'm not going to buy a boat. No, I've got enough problems with the cars and the bicycles. I think we'll leave it at that. So we'll see what happens. Right, well, the fact that we're on the M4 doesn't really bring us a lot of pleasure, because M4, M25, what's the difference? These motorways, actually it doesn't even matter what country you're in, well, apart from maybe travelling around in France, because I have to say that the roads there are very, very sparse, and certainly the ones I go on, the motorways there, but here, I mean, you could be anywhere. Very depressing in some ways. Not much to look at. So we're heading towards Windsor. Well, this is a rather posh area here. Oh, look. Wheels there. Some lovely houses here. These are typical English houses that were built 20s and 30s, mainly. Timber-looking houses and clay tile roofs. Actually lovely, and look at that one, you see, and as we see up here, usually a sort of a pub or something not far away. It always was a desirable type of place to live, and now these sort of places are becoming few and far between, and they're becoming even more desirable. Overcrowded. Oh, this is tight. Glad I didn't bring my Crossfire. That's a lovely, look at that lovely church. That's beautiful. Isn't that beautiful? This is a really charming area here. Beautiful church there. Look at that. So somewhere around here we'll find a boatyard. They certainly don't want big lorries in that area. I don't blame them. Okay, so now we've changed cars from a Jag X series. Heading somewhere. We'll find out where.
Going towards Windup. We're in Maryna. We're heading towards Windup.
Right, we're here. A little Jag.
All I need.
Angel, as you come through, could you call into the restaurant to see Val's there?
So this is a big marina here, and somewhere there's a little yacht we're going on. Actually, I've been here a number of times, and it's a nice little place, but a bit hairy getting out of here because the channel that you have to go down to get to the Thames is fairly overgrown. So of course they've cleared it a bit. I find it a bit scary because if you meet another boat coming the other way, but we'll see.
Hello. Hello.
So, this is the narrow bit. We've got to negotiate to go down to the Thames.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Look out, bells.
I like
Bell, no, darling.
Hot dog Bailey is enjoying himself.
It was nice to be there. With lunch.
Just to relax. You won't believe this, but
Right, so we've come out of there, and now we're in the Thames. This is near Windsor, not far from Windsor Castle. Not sure if we go by the castle this little trip we're going on. Maybe we're going in the wrong direction. So, Windsor Castle is in the opposite direction of where we're going. I think we're heading to probably a restaurant. I'm not too certain, actually. I'm just having a few drinks of champagne here, though it's only midday, and I'll just go with the flow, as it were.
going Normandy.
Sorry. No, it's from the law. It's the same man who goes on campaign.
Can you throw that one over, Chris?
Bye bye.
Right. Well, here I am, walking my dog. I'm not in a car, and I'm not even near a car. Not quite. But I was just going to say a few words about cars, really. Well, the issue is, actually, there's hang on. This is a willow tree here that I planted. It was from some of the willows that I cut up, and it was a branch that was sprouting out, so I'm turning it into a tree. And it was really doing well, and I've been watering it through all the hot weather. And a rabbit or something has been chewing at it last night, which is a bloody nuisance, and I'm not sure whether it'll survive, but I hope so. I've sort of propped it up now, but shame about that. Anyway, the problem with cars at the moment is that I've got so much work that I'm doing with the building project that I'm on, that I've got, where I'm building houses and flats here, and I just don't have enough time to spend with my cars. I've got my Crossfire at the moment back at the work at the paint shop, bodywork people, and they're repainting, stripping and repainting the foil that goes up the air spoiler, because the bubbles were coming back again slightly. So obviously there is an issue there which they haven't addressed properly. And they're going to take the Mercedes in again, so that Mercedes will be going back. But what did I do? I took the Aventime to France. I've been out in the Jag. That was a good day out for the Jag. I went out in that. I've actually been out in the Volvo, so that was good. But other than that, I've done very little. I just don't have the time. And it gets you depressed, really, because I think I watch videos of people who've got car collections, you know, big car collections, or car collections similar to mine in terms of quantity, and they're busy with them and everything else, and I'm feeling very despondent, and at times I wonder if I should just get rid of them, or some of them, or most of them, or whatever. I just don't know. They all seem to be in good condition. The 2CV has got an issue as well, of course, with this starting problem. I've got to get that addressed. I suppose it's just me, I'm getting depressed with it at the moment. Then there's the 2CV, which is covered in dust. But I bought this new electric bike. I've been out on that a bit, and I've been out on a couple of my other electric bikes.